everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Animation Pilgrimage. I'm Tennille.
And I'm Sean, and welcome to the 1961 Disney film 101 Dalmatians.
Yeah! Dogs.
Many doggos.
I loved this movie as a kid.
All the doggos, in fact.
And I still really love this movie now. I'll put that out here right away. I think this is a great movie.
Yeah, this is a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. It's a good road trip adventure film, sort of.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it has a lot of those same, tropey kind of things that dog movies do. But I think 101 Dalmatians and Lady and the Tramp are some of the better examples of those tropes. You know, like the dogs being in danger, the dogs being the only ones that can solve the problems.
Dogs go on large journey across the country for for some really dumb arbitrary reason.
Yeah. I mean, the villain is at least
a crazy person wanting to kill the dogs for reasons.
Yeah, like those are all tropes. But 101 Dalmatians makes it more legit than a lot of other things. Like, most of the time in these kinds of animal films, it's like some evil businessman who wants to, destroy a park. So, for whatever reason, the dogs care, and they're like, we've got to stop them, or whatever. You know?
We're mainly referring to a bunch of really dumb, 90s and 2000s live-action horrible movies.
Right.
That all do this same sort of thing, but there are a few animated ones in there, too.
Uh-huh.
And I'm guessing a lot of them unintentionally draw inspiration from this film.
Oh, how could they not? You know? Like the way the dogs all communicate through the Twilight Bark. That's a concept that since this movie has been done over and over and over again. The animals all have a secret way of communicating with each other. Or, this is why dogs bark at each other kind of thing.
It's like they have a secret life, those pets.
Yeah, anyway. But this is a great movie.
Yes.
It's one I grew up watching a lot. What about you? Did you watch this movie a lot growing up?
I think so. I'm trying to remember if I actually owned this film growing up. I think I did.
It's definitely one you were more familiar with.
Yeah, I've definitely seen this one multiple times, and it's more familiar than some of the other Disney films we've seen. I don't know, I always thought it was fine. It definitely wasn't on the top of my list of, if I'm going to sit down and watch a film, this was not very high on it.
That's fair. This was never, even in terms of, Disney movies, this was never on the top of my list either. But it was one that I always really enjoyed. It's probably, this is horrible to say because I know that this one was more important to you growing up, but it's probably on the same level as, Cinderella.
Okay, yeah, that seems fair.
Yeah. I think I actually prefer Lady and the Tramp a bit over this, but just a little bit.
You know, this is going to sound really, really bad, but I think I've seen the live-action 101 Dalmatians and 102 Dalmatians.
Oh, gosh.
Just as many times combined as this movie.
Oh, I mean, the live-action 101 Dalmatians isn't awful. It's got Glenn Close, and she's awesome in it.
That's Cruella?
Yeah, she plays Cruella. And she's pretty good in that. 102 Dalmatians is really bad. I don't even remember anything that goes on in that movie other than there's a white Dalmatian puppy. Yep. But it's just from what I remember as a kid, I remember not being able to understand what's going on. Do you remember what happens in that movie?
Cruella's
in that?
Fixed? Yes. Yes, yeah, the movie pretty much starts with her in an insane asylum where they fix people that have issues, and now she loves dogs and doesn't want to turn them into fur coats. And then she gets out, and then for some reason she reverts because psychotherapy like that doesn't work. I don't know.
Oh,
And there's a really weird, dumb CGI scene where she's like in London and all the buildings start getting spots and everything.
Oh my gosh. I was confusing that with, because I'm like, well, that kind of sounds like what happens in the Disney animated sequel of 101 Dalmatians, Patch's London Adventure.
I don't think I've ever seen that.
Okay, that one's amusing. It's very Bolt.
Oh.
But instead, Cruella is out of jail, but but she's still like obsessed with spots. So she hires like this artist guy who's like a modern artist who she's interested in him because he had this canvas up in a museum where it's a white canvas with one spot in the middle. Like, it's very, very much like a commentary on stupid modern art.
Oh my goodness. You know, I say I've never seen the movie.
Uh-huh.
I might have seen it once.
Yeah.
Probably fell asleep in the middle of it because it was one of those movies I rented and like watched on a Sunday afternoon and got really bored. But I played... We're going off on a weird tangent here, but I played...
There's so many, like, branching paths to the 101 Dalmatians lore.
I played the 102 Patch's London Adventure PC game a lot.
Oh, one of my cousins had that growing up, and I played, like, 5 minutes of it, and it was like a broken, glitchy mess. Either that or we were just too dumb to figure out what to do next.
It was a weird game that, like, involved... I don't know, like going up and down ladders and I don't remember.
One thing as a kid, I remember in the live action 101 Dalmatians that I wanted so bad is that Roger is a video game developer and he's working on a game with Dalmatians and they're like in this minecart thing and I'm like, that looks so cool, I want to play it. But there was never an actual game and I was like, what the hell?
I remember that. Oh my goodness. So we're like getting way off topic here.
Yeah.
I hope while this whole time that we've been talking about not 101 Dalmatians, you just like turned off the screen and like slowly been zooming in on us or something. I don't know. Just some effect that's like we're just going off the rails.
Woo! Okay, so let's bring it all back in. Okay. 101 Dalmatians.
The 1961 animated Disney film.
Not to be confused with any other adaptations or video games or whatever that came decades later.
Okay.
Do you want to go into a summary?
Sure, let's do...
People should be pretty familiar with this.
It's a pretty straightforward story.
Yeah.
Like, really straightforward. So, Pongo has his pet, who is...
Roger.
Roger, his human.
Roger Radcliffe.
And he's like, you know what? My pet needs
a mate.
Needs a mate. So he does like some crowd surfing and sees, oh, there's a beautiful female Dalmatian.
I love this scene. Like, this whole setup is great because Pongo's essentially looking at like Playboy magazines and Roger's bachelor pad, like trying to figure out like
what's attractive in
humans. It's such a clever joke that obviously goes over the heads of kids, but like adults are like,
I see what you're doing. And he sees a bunch of like dog pairs that they all look alike, which I mean is just a common dog owner trope thing.
Yeah.
Or I guess pet owner in general. But he's finally like, female Dalmatian, and I guess the human's good looking too.
Yeah, I like that as well because it's just like. It's like, that girl's nice, and then let's look at the dog. No.
So he's like, all right, we're going to the park. We got to follow them. We got to get them mixed up, and he like tangles up. Like he tries a few different things, and finally he tangles them up, and they all fall in the water, and then.
Okay, I'm probably going to interrupt you multiple times through the summary of this one.
Okay.
But the continuity in that whole scene is some of the sloppiest.
Yeah.
Like, the shot is specifically when Pongo goes and tangles up Anita, and then they fall into the pond, and then, like, they're getting out of the pond. Like, specifically Pongo and Perdita, like, switch where they are in the scene a couple of times. Or maybe not a couple of times even. It might just be once, but it's always really bothered me. And I remember noticing it as a kid, because there's like a shot where Pongo watches them fall into the water, and then he watches Perdita get out of the water and like shake off, and then he's suddenly in the water.
Oh. I don't even remember.
I'll show it here, because it's always bugged me.
Interesting. But
the only Disney continuity error like that I can think of that's worse is in Hercules. When Hercules, like, puts his hand into the river Styx to try and pull out Meg's soul.
Oh, yeah.
And then it's like, oh no, it doesn't work. And then the next shot, it's like, you've got to jump in there. And so Hercules does, and it's like a 200-foot drop all of a sudden. It's like, what happened?
It's just slowly going down the drain.
But there's no river up there.
I don't know. Whatever. Either way, the humans get along, and just a little bit later, they
fall in love.
They get married. They move into a house together. And Perdita, the female Dalmatian, is now pregnant.
Is expecting puppies.
Adorable little puppies. And there's the Nana?
Yeah.
Is she just known as Nana, or does she have a name? I don't remember.
Yeah, she's just like Nanny. She's the nanny.
The nanny, okay. And then Cruella de Vil, what's her name? Female.
Anita.
Anita's old college roommate.
Yeah.
Cruella de Vil shows up, and if you can't figure it out, Cruel Ella Devil.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really straightforward, but I don't know, maybe English isn't your first language or something, but it's Cruella de Vil.
I'm sure there are many kids who had, like, that moment. That moment when you realize something that was so obvious as a kid that even most kids pick it up, but for whatever reason, you didn't.
And you're just like, oh!
Her name is literally Devil!
Oh!
Devil!
Samus is a girl!
Well, but that's actually a secret.
I mean, it
There's
was for a while.
There's a reveal.
Yeah.
I know I had one of those dumb kid moments with The Lion King. Like, just the name, The Lion King. It's like, oh, it's called The Lion King because he becomes a king at the end of the movie and he's a lion. I don't know. Kids are dumb. Including me.
Oh my goodness.
We all have those moments.
Okay. Either way, she shows up and she's like, I want the puppies. Give me the puppies. I'm like, they're not ready yet. You're not getting the puppies because they're not ready. And she's like, fine, I'll be back. And she storms out and Perdita is like, I hate her. She's a devil woman. Not just because her name is Devil.
Well, I love the animation. This is such a really nice scene when Cruella shows up, and oh my gosh, we're going to talk a lot about Cruella, because the animation for her is fantastic. Cruella shows up, and she's just, like, so bad with animals. But she's like, here, dog, here. And Pongo's, like, backing up and growling at her. And then Anita's like, Cruella, she's obviously trying to avoid a lawsuit if her dog accidentally bites Cruella.
Yeah.
It's just, it's a good scene. And it's something that's, like, very relatable if you're a pet owner, because you've had those people who, like, come up and just don't know how to react to animals and, like, how to do anything. Usually it's children, but every once in a while you get a stupid adult who comes by and is just like, oh, wow, let me traumatize your dog for you. And it's like, stay, how about you don't? So...
Yay!
Yeah.
Either way, we then flash forward to the night when Perdita is having the puppies, and you got the whole, like, dad waiting in the waiting room, waiting for the puppies to come out. And then it's like... Another
great scene, because, like, the tension is so thick. It's a stormy night. And you've got Radcliffe and Pongo, like, working off of each other, and they're both just so anxious, and then it just, boom, it bursts. It's like, the puppies are here!
Mm-hmm.
And they both just, like, jump into the air because they're just shocked.
Cruella shows up again.
And wants to buy all the puppies and is like, how soon can they leave their mom? 3 weeks, 4 weeks? It's like, hell no, lady, you're not getting any of these puppies.
And Roger's like, nah, get out.
Mm-hmm.
Get out, not one, not the single spotted puppy. Essentially.
I always feel for Roger here because it's like Cruella keeps upping the price, and it's like, oh damn, it's almost worth it.
But he doesn't sell the puppies.
Mm-hmm.
So Cruella decides that instead she's going to steal the puppies. And she hires Horace and Jasper! No, Horace and Jasper! There,
Yeah,
I got it
there
correct
you go.
that time.
Yeah, they come and they steal the puppies while,
They're out for the nightly walk.
while they're out for their walk, and there's only the nanny home.
Mm-hmm.
And then, the humans try, and they even get, like, Scotland Yard to try and find these puppies.
Which, I mean, I might be incorrect here, but I feel like Scotland Yard would not give a rat's ass about stolen puppies.
It was 15 of them. Like, that's a lot of dogs.
Yeah, so? It's dogs.
I know, but,
Of
like...
a random couple that doesn't make a whole lot of money.
Yeah. And that's
Sure, if it was the Queen's puppies, yeah, they would totally be all over that, but,
Yeah, it was like, this is the part where the plot gets a little silly, but it doesn't focus on this point all that much. But, like, at the same time, like, the humans have to be shown caring and trying, because otherwise that would not feel very Disney. It would not feel very genuine and, like, family.
Mm-hmm. But either way, the dogs are like, this doesn't work, so we're gonna try ourselves, and...
Yep, they send out the Twilight Bark.
Which is just a calling chain.
Mm-hmm.
They just gossip.
It's a gossip chain.
Like, we lost our puppies, help! And it gets all across town, and randomly in this scene we see, like, all of the characters from,
Lady and the Tramp.
Lady and the Tramp, except they can't obviously be the same ones, because they're in England now as compared to America and a different time, whatever.
Yeah.
But it's like, you see all of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's little cameos for Jock, there's a cameo for... Peg and the bulldog in the pound. Lady shows up, Tramp's there.
Mm-hmm. But either way, it gets out to the middle of the country, which is close to the old DeVille place. And
you've got the Colonel and Sergeant Tibbs and...
The name of the horse. I don't remember the name of the horse.
I think he's Lieutenant.
Yeah. But either way, they go out and they check it out, and there are 99. 99 Dalmatian puppies that are being kept there by Horace and Jasper. Turns out most of them were actually bought and paid for.
All of them, except for...
Yeah, except for the 15 that were stolen.
Yeah.
Which is honestly pretty impressive.
Cruella's spending a lot of money on this coat.
Yeah, because you gotta remember that Dalmatians are like a prized breeding
Yeah, like they're
dog.
purebred dogs. I mean, I think a lot of times she was probably going to just like random pet stores, so they wouldn't be as much, but then she's only getting like a few puppies at a time then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, either way.
She somehow got 99 puppies that are all roughly the same age.
Mm-hmm.
Which is kind of ridiculous. This is just gonna like wipe out a whole generation of
Dalmatian English puppies.
Yeah.
Whoa.
But yeah, she's wanting them all to make
I
a fur
also
coat
gotta
out
say,
of
like,
them.
this is getting off topic, but like a dog skin coat?
That doesn't sound very appealing.
No. Like
I mean, I'm not into furs anyways, but
I had a foster Dalmatian dog. And just from that experience, like, yeah, sure, the puppy fur would be softer. Which is why I think she wanted a puppy Dalmatian fur coat.
Yeah.
But, like, Dalmatian hair is not that soft. But I guess, also, like, this is a fashion thing, and Cruella's doing it more so for fashion than comfort, so...
Yes, that's true.
I don't know. Obviously...
Crazy lady.
Yeah, you're not supposed to understand Cruella's... motivation.
But either way, they find out that the puppies are there, and so they send word back through the line to Pongo and Perdita that the puppies are there. So Pongo and Perdita's like, all right, we're just running away then. We must run across the country. And they do so in, like, a quick montage.
Oh, but it's a good montage. Like, they show everywhere that they've been, and then there's that section where they, like, jump into the
frozen river. This gotta be cold.
Yeah.
But they finally make it there, and it's like a day or two later or something? It's gotta be.
I mean...
Some amount of time later.
But they get the puppies out, and...
Well, I mean, they get the puppies out, but then, like, that happens to be the night that they need to, like, Horace and Jasper
are going to be killing all the puppies that night, but they keep procrastinating because they're watching that parody TV show, What's My Crime?
Which, honestly, I would totally watch something like that.
It's a good parody. I think the fact that it's still funny today
just give you an idea of, like,
such a good parody of TV shows back in the time. Which, speaking of that, there was another scene earlier where they were watching another parody TV show, which was Thunderbolt, which we kind of talked about that on an earlier episode of Animation Pilgrimage, where we were talking about Crusader Rabbit.
Yeah, because, I mean, they're both, like, kind of parodying the same sort of, like, tune in next time to find out what happens on these westerns and stuff. Words.
Good job. So anyway, Pongo and Perdita get there just in the nick of time.
Give them the old rough and tumble.
We get a brutal dogfight, like... Not dogfight.
But human
like,
v dog.
Human v dog. I always loved that scene as a kid. I'm like, yeah, get him!
Give them the old rough and tumble. Beat up Jasper and Horace.
Good job.
Jeez, why do I keep mixing up those names?
I don't know.
But they get them all out.
And then the rest of the movie is like not a montage, but like various scenes of them trying to get back home.
And avoiding Jasper and Horace. And Cruella.
Well, yeah, and Cruella, because now she's in on the chase, too. There's so many neat things that, as a kid, stuck with me. Like, I love the scene where Pongo is trying to, like, erase their tracks with a tree branch. And then the whole scene where they go to the barn, and there's the collie who helps them out. I love the collie's character design.
Oh, he looks so cool. It's like, that was like the one time I was like, I want a dog.
I want a dog. I want that dog.
I want that dog right there. Never again in my life have I ever run across any dog, real or not, that's like, yes, I need that.
Collies are awesome, man.
They're so cool.
So cool.
I mean, there's probably a reason that there's a whole show based around a collie named Lassie.
Well, Lassie was a book.
It was a book. Okay. Whatever. And they turned it into a TV show and saved Timmy down the well, something.
Something. Pop culture references. Yeah. And then they finally get to the town of Dinsford, where there's a black Labrador waiting for them.
Okay, Black Lab was really cool, too.
Yeah, I love his collar, his blue...
It's like, he's almost like jade-looking collar.
Yeah, it's really cool.
And then the dogs wear blackface. To escape?
I mean, you're not wrong. But it's not. You make it sound worse than what it is.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a weird one. It's fine, but it's like, if you think about it, you're just like, Huh.
Because the dogs are already have so many
personified,
human characteristics. You're just like,
And
but it doesn't have any sort of like link to that, other than the fact that like they could have met a yellow Labrador and rolled around in, I don't know, yellow powder, and like the scene would have played out exactly the same. Like there isn't any joke or any anything that they say or do that implies that it's supposed to be like blackface.
Yeah, the only thing that like might link this more, I don't know, I'm just kind of stretching here, but I may be incorrect, but I feel like the voice actor for the Black Lab was an African fellow.
I'm not sure. I would have to look it up. He had a deeper voice, but I don't know.
I don't know. I might be completely incorrect. It's actually been a little bit since we've watched the movie now. Since we didn't done this review, I would have to watch it again to know, or just look it up. But either way, it's a thing that happens.
Okay. But anyway, they get all the puppies, they take them out in batches. Cruella, Horace, and Jasper are all in town, and that's why they have to disguise themselves to get onto this van that'll take them the rest of the way to London. And Cruella realizes that finds them out, like, right as the truck's leaving, and then we get that car chase.
Crazy woman driver! Trying to run this random guy in his truck off the road.
To kill him! I mean, she wants to kill the... Like Cruella, I get it. You want the coat real bad, but like...
Trying to pick dead puppies out of, like, a car crash sounds miserable. You're nuts. You're crazy, lady.
Yeah.
But it all ends poorly for her because she ruins her car and then crashes into Jasper and Horace, who also ruin their vehicle, and presumably all get arrested for terrible driving and also puppy stealing.
Yeah, but that scene where like they impact and her car just like
explodes.
Flips,
yes.
And then like you see them at the bottom of the hill and her coat's just like ripped up and
you idiots! That's a good one.
Oh, she's such a good voice for that character.
She's so charismatic.
I love it. And then all the Dalmatians get home and they sing a happy song.
We'll have a Dalmatian plantation where our population can grow.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, they've made a buttload of money off of the Cruella de Vil song.
Yeah, and they do imply that it's been some time, because, like...
It's now Christmas.
Yeah, it's Christmas. As a kid, this was another just, like, stupid thing as a kid. But, like, I never really picked up that they were going to move somewhere out into the countryside. So as a kid, the ending always kind of bothered me that we never saw that ending where they move out into the countryside.
Which they did in the live action version, and that had like 5,000 CGI dogs running all over the screen, and it was a little weird.
Yeah. I think it would have been nice if they would have shown that in this movie.
No, we'll just show it in the crappy TV show they make 40 years later.
Yeah.
Well, there's another thing that they did.
Yeah, I actually watched that show quite a bit as a kid.
I watched a bunch of it too.
Yep.
It wasn't good.
No, it wasn't. It really wasn't. So yeah, I was like, what are they gonna do with all those dogs?
Sell them?
And that's not what they say in the song.
Yep, nope. They're just gonna sit there and keep making more.
Well, I don't think that's the plan either. They just want to have a home for all their dogs.
We'll have a Dalmatian plantation where our population can grow.
Can roam.
Roam.
Can roam.
Okay. I feel like there's something in there about growing.
I don't think so.
Okay, I might be wrong. Whatever.
We can look up the lyrics later if you want.
Nah.
Anyway, though.
Okay, so that's the film. So I know you did a lot of research into this one, and I know you have a lot of stuff to share. And one thing I want to point out that might be a good segue into what you want to talk about
is
just like, I obviously don't know everything that went into it, but I know that the last movie before this was Sleeping Beauty, correct?
Yes.
Okay. The astute eye might be able to tell that this looks nothing like that movie and has a significantly lower budget, and it shows. Why don't you extrapolate upon that?
Okay, for starters, I just want to say that I think 101 Dalmatians is one of Disney's best looking films.
Yes, but you are also very, very in love with the sketchy look, which is what they went for in this movie.
I love that Xerox machine, baby. All right, so let's talk about it. So, for anyone who doesn't know, Ub Iwerks, we've talked about him a long time ago. Do you remember? Co-creator of Mickey Mouse.
Okay.
Helped create the multiplane camera.
Yes. Okay.
Ub Iwerks worked in and out of Disney, but he's back at Disney, and he helped develop the Xerox process, which is what allowed the animators to take their rough animation, and instead of needing the ink and paint department to trace over that animation and put it onto a cell, the Xerox machine was able to transfer that drawing directly onto the cell, which means they no longer had need for inking.
So it's essentially just like a scan and print.
Yeah.
It's almost like a fax machine, honestly, because it only picks up black.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And see, and there's another thing, is they hadn't really figured out the idea of using like the blue pencil technique, and a lot of animators obviously weren't used to that, and they've been working a really long time
with only
your standard
graphite
pencil. Yeah. So that's why a lot of times in this film you can see the animators'
sketch marks,
like you can see the circles they would make for the head. Cruella's design in particular, if you pause the movie, her outline can look very rough at times because of the shagginess of like the fur coat that she's wearing, and like colors will kind of like break off abruptly because of it. But this film's beautiful, and they obviously went a little bit more UPA inspired with this film.
Yes, yeah.
But the art director for this film is Ken Anderson. And Ken Anderson took this whole process a little bit further by making it so the backgrounds were also a part of the Xerox process.
Oh.
So they had the paintings for the backgrounds, and then they did a drawing that was like the sketch of the background, put that through the Xerox machine to put it on a cell, and then put that on top of the painting.
So it gave the background the same like drawn
look as the rest of the animation.
Oh, that's so smart.
Which is one of the reasons why this is brilliant art direction.
Oh my goodness! Holy crap! That's how they do the UPA style. Like they literally just did a beautiful background and then drew the lines and put it on top.
Yep.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. Walt, on the other hand, did not love that. Walt hated the look of this film. Hated it so much that after the release of 101 Dalmatians, he told Ken Anderson that he would never be an art director ever again.
Oh.
Yes. And then, but there is a bit of a better ending to this story. Luckily, about a week before Walt died, so in 1966, Walt was at the studio, and Ken Anderson saw him and says, "Hey, Walt, it's great to see you." And apparently Walt said, "Hey, Ken, what you did on 101 Dalmatians." And he never finished his sentence, but, like, they both kind of came to an agreement that, like...
It's like, it was alright.
Yeah. And they got over it.
That's good.
But Walt wasn't really a fan of how contemporary this whole film felt. He didn't like the fact that it felt like they were losing out on the fantasy aspect of this film.
Yeah, because pretty much all their films before this were definitely fantastical and fairy tales and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. The only one that you could really argue that's the most like this is Lady and the Tramp, and even that one has that
historical sense?
Yeah, it has that fantasy aspect in that it's like romanticizing a certain time period of American history.
Yeah.
Kind of feel. And this one is not. It's very
present day London.
Yeah, it's very contemporary London, and even the threat feels more real and not quite so fantasy.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
And Walt wasn't a fan of that, and then that's going to be an interesting discussion when we talk about the next film, because the next film is Sword in the Stone.
Oh.
And Walt specifically picked that film. He had two choices. They were working on Sword in the Stone and Chanticleer.
Oh.
And I've not seen anything say specifically that, like, Walt picked this because he wanted to do something a bit more traditional, but I get the feeling that this film shook him up just a little bit too much and was like, this was a little too different from what he was used to producing, and so he wanted to do something more fantasy after that, and so Sword in the Stone hit that more than Chanticleer did.
Okay. Now, we haven't really touched on it, but do you want to cover why they switched to the Xerox machine?
Yes.
Because that's a very big and very important thing. It's like, okay, cool, but like this is interesting that they have this new system, but why did they do it?
Because it's significantly cheaper. Like hella cheaper.
And especially coming off of
Sleeping Beauty, which was their most expensive film to date, and due to its failure at the box office,
lost the company so much money.
Almost had them talking about shutting down the animation studio.
Woof. So they needed to have another Dumbo, essentially.
Yeah, but calling this another Dumbo is a reach.
Is an insult.
Yeah, I mean, it honestly is, because they still put a decent amount of money into this. It's just, they didn't need to put... They just didn't need to put as much thanks to the Xerox machine.
Mm-hmm. And they were able to get this movie out in significantly less time, which was also very useful.
Oh, yeah. It's like, if they had to have done this film with the ink and paint department still there, I don't know if they would have been able to do it. Just for the fact that there was all these spots.
Oh,
like, the Dalmatian spots would have been...
murder.
Yeah, it would have been so much extra money.
Let's save ourselves time and money and do creatures that have 1 billion spots on them. Wait. Hold on.
Yeah, I mean, this is still a Disney production.
Like, and they still try to go above and beyond what any other studio would try to do as safe.
Yeah.
And, I mean, yeah, having all the puppies look nearly identical or have, like, only, like, 4 or 5 variations.
There are quite a few different puppies.
Is there? Okay.
Yeah, like...
But they can still, like, they all have the same base shape. It's just, like, their spot designs, so they were able to loop animation a lot.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of times where puppies loop. But, like, considering, how many dogs there are a fair number of unique puppies.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Patch, you've got Rolly, you've got Freckles, and gosh, there's quite a few.
I feel like you're stretching now.
No, there is quite a few unique puppies.
Okay.
In the film. Then there's a lot that just loop and repeat. There's a lot of things they changed. Did you know this was based on a book?
Not until we pulled up the Wikipedia page and I saw like the first line said it was like based off of the blah book.
You know, in that opening sequence, it even has a spot where it's like, based on the book by Dodie Smith.
Oh, whoops.
It goes by fairly quickly, which was one of the complaints the author had, is like, hey, you know, like, I wrote the book that this is based off of, but, like,
I'm in the credits for 30 seconds.
No, not even. There's this whole sequence where it's like, the book, and then, like, it slowly types out her name, and then as soon as her name is finished, it, like, cuts and moves on to the next part.
Oh.
So, and her name's, like, fairly small compared to everybody else's names that go on there.
Awkward.
Yeah, but I don't think there's too many bad feelings between her and the Disney company, because she was a pen pal to Walt while he was getting the rights and stuff, and they talked back and forth quite a bit even after the film had come out.
Okay. That's good to hear.
Mm-hmm. And I think there's even a quote of her saying that she feels that the movie is a better version of her book.
Oh.
So she really liked what they did.
Good. So it's not the same situation as
Mary Poppins?
Mary Poppins,
No.
where Walt had to fight tooth and nail to get that made, and then even still the original author hated the movie.
Yeah, I was like,
You ruined it!
You ruined it! Yeah. Yeah, not so much. But, I mean, there were a few things that, like, during the process of making the film, she'd be like, you're changing this, and I don't really understand why. And then, but by the time she saw the film, she's like, okay, yeah, I like that. Like, the fact that there's quite a few changes between the books, or the book and the movie. And this is a good chance to start talking about Bill Peet, who we haven't talked about too much on Animation Pilgrimage, but Bill Peet's really important. I don't know why I haven't mentioned him up to this point, but he's like probably one of the most famous storyboard artists ever.
Okay.
He storyboarded most Disney films that we've seen.
Oh, okay. Wow. Holy crap.
Yeah.
And
like, he wasn't always the sole storyboard artist, but I think he was the only storyboard artist on this film.
Okay. Now, have we mentioned what storyboarding is before? I'm sure we have.
Probably. If not, let's
just
go over it really quick.
yeah.
Essentially, a storyboard artist is creating the film in small thumbnail drawings, in just like singular images, so that the rest of the artists in the team can look at that, and that way they know what needs to happen in the scene, how the scene's going to play out,
what camera direction is
going to be used, get a feel for like the timing and the pacing of things. And the Disney company was really the ones that is credited the most for bringing about the storyboards, and storyboards are something that are now used everywhere.
Like everywhere, yeah.
Yeah, live action uses it, video games uses it. Like,
of course, animated stuff still uses it.
Yeah, like everybody uses storyboards.
Because, I mean, essentially the storyboard artists are going to create what the film is going to look like before it actually gets going.
Right.
Because, like, they decide all the camera shots. They decide the rough timing of everything. They decide what scenes are going to be in the movie, and oftentimes they have, like, it gives a big hand on what the script is going to turn out to be.
Mm-hmm. And you can correct me here if I'm wrong, but take a look at that page. But I think the book was originally written in like 56. Yeah, so the book was made in 1956. Walt read it in like 1957 and then immediately bought the rights.
Wow.
And then there was a movie in 1961.
So, yeah, he's like, I love it. Buy the rights. We're going to make a movie about right now.
Yeah, and they did. Like, that's a really fast turnaround time. But after Walt read the book, he immediately handed it over to Bill Peet, our storyboard artist man, and he says, hey, make a transcript.
Wow.
And Bill Peet was the only one doing it, and he had never actually written transcript before. He'd always only just boarded it.
Oh.
So he actually wrote out the full transcript and then fully boarded the movie.
So, wow, he wrote the script and did the storyboarding. So he had like full control on this movie. I'm sure other people came in and like they changed
Ken
it quite a
Anderson
bit.
was the art director, so you know, he had quite a bit of say. And then I think Woody Reitherman was probably a director at this point because he was directing everything. Yeah.
But heck, he did the first pass.
We've got directors of Wolfgang, Hamilton, Lusk, and Clyde Giromani.
Clyde Geronimi? Geronimo! I apologize, Clyde. I can't pronounce your last name.
Yeah.
I would have to hear it pronounced or like said to me before I know how to pronounce that.
Yeah, so yeah, Bill did this whole story and condensed some things from the books, like Perdita. Perdita was originally 2 dogs.
Really?
Yeah. Perdita was like 2 dogs who both took care of the puppies.
Interesting.
And I think one of them was just called the Missus, and then I'm not sure what the other one was called. And they combined those 2 dogs into one character and named her Perdita.
Okay.
Which the author was like, that's a weird name, and Disney's like, we like it.
Pongo Perdita.
Yeah.
It goes together.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah. And then in the book, Cruella has a husband and a cat, which the Disney team cut because, you know, it's not really necessary.
Honestly, it's a little interesting that they cut the cat character because that would be like... not to say like Disney...
That is the dog trope. The evil person has to own a cat.
Yeah, it's like, why did they not... They could have an evil cartoon cat in this movie.
That's one thing I gotta say right now that I love is that the only cat that is in this film...
Is good?
Is a good guy, and he's nice, and he's sweet. Sergeant Tibbs is really good.
There are no evil animals at all in this movie.
Mm-hmm. Animals are just good, and I appreciate that.
The true villain was man!
The villain was man. But not even man, just one bad person.
One crazy lady.
Yeah.
And I guess her 2 bumbling sidekicks.
Yeah. Who she's paying to do this. It's not even like they really want to. Like, they even have, like, I don't want to skin the puppies. I'll kill them, but I don't want to skin them.
Mm-hmm. It's like, I'll kill them, you do the skinning. Like, no, I'll kill them, you do the skinning.
Yeah.
Because no one wants to skin a dog.
Ugh.
That doesn't sound fun.
I mean, I don't want to kill a dog either, but skinning it just sounds
It's like the only people that might enjoy doing that are like...
Psychopaths?
Well, I was going to say like a taxidermist.
Even then, I don't...
Like I said, might enjoy doing it.
Yeah, I guess.
It's like the only other people are like literally crazy people.
Yeah. Blah. And then there's other little scene things where they just like condense stuff down, change here or there. I haven't read the book personally, so I can't give my own opinion on that. But if the author of it is even like, yeah, I think this is a better version of my book, seems legit to me.
Probably good praise then.
Yeah.
I'm assuming this movie did well.
Yes, this movie did very well. It wasn't like a smash hit or anything, but like for a Disney film, it did well. Well, you can't... Sean's pointing at the box office numbers. You can't just point at that because that's probably a lifetime number.
Oh, okay,
multiple re-releases.
Okay, yeah, so it's like it won 3.6 million to make and 215.8 million made back. I'm like... Didn't do well? What are you talking about?
I didn't say it didn't do well. This movie did really well.
But, like, the way you said it was like, oh, it only made, like, 7 billion times its original budget. I mean, that's a little preposterous, but, yeah, I guess world or lifetime... Yeah. That would make a lot more sense.
Yeah, you gotta remember that, you know, Disney films of this time came back on multiple re-releases to theaters and all of that.
Yeah, okay, that makes a lot more sense.
Mm-hmm. And I think as far as critics go, it always scores really well. with the caveat of most critics being like, it's not the best Disney film ever, but it's a really good one.
Okay, yeah.
Which,
that's a fair criticism.
Yeah, it was like there are a couple of critics at the time that are like, this is the best thing since, like, Snow White or Cinderella.
But that happens every time that
Right.
Disney releases a new movie.
Yeah. And then, you get more of them that are like, this wasn't Snow White or Cinderella. It's like you have two camps. You have this is the next Snow White or Cinderella. And then you have well, it's no Snow White or Pinocchio, but it was fine, I guess.
I like your snide critic voice.
Going back to Bill Peet, though. So, in the Disney company, of course, by this time, the artists have a fairly familiar routine with how they do films.
Mm-hmm.
Bill Peet does story. Walt is there for the story meetings, but he's not really particularly a part of any other part of the process. And so the story gets approved by them, and then it moves to Milt Kahl to do character designs.
Mm-hmm.
And Milt and Bill Peet typically got along really well, and Bill Peet obviously kind of had a first pass at character designs because he was a storyboard artist. And then Milt would take what Bill Peet did and then do what Milt does and make it look awesome. But there was a bit of a kerfuffle between the two of them as they tried to decide what Pongo should look like. And I'm actually pulling up the picture of this now so that Sean can see it, and I'm going to show this to you guys as well so you can see. And here on the left, we have Bill Peet's design for Pongo. And then on the right, we have Milt Kahl's.
Oh, interesting. He wanted him to be a bigger, jockier dog as compared to just kind of like what we have for the actual film.
Right. And this to me is so interesting. I could talk about just this for a whole video.
Like, he's got a stockier body. He's got smaller eyes, which makes the rest of his face just look so much bigger.
Mm-hmm.
That is so interesting. Yeah, he just looks like a big, stiff doggo. Which is not a bad thing. I mean, he's still got like the super tiny feet.
Yeah, it's so interesting to me because on this, I am 100% on Bill Peet's side. I think that is a much better design.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, Milt is just so good at drawing animals, or drawing anything. And I love Milt's drawings. And, that's also a good design. But, as Bill Peet said, and I think he's right on the money here, that is not a Dalmatian.
Yeah. That seems fair.
That is a Great Dane.
Oh my god, you're right. That is a Great Dane.
Yeah.
I'm really bad at breeds, so it's like it looks like another dog that just has Dalmatian spots on it, and yeah, Great Dane. That's exactly what it is.
Mm-hmm. But obviously, Milt's argument was that he wanted there to be more visual contrast between Pongo and Perdita.
Which is fair, because they do look almost exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
She's just slightly smoother.
It's one of those cases where I do think, in a way, both artists are right.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm on Bill Peet's side with this one.
Yeah, and I mean, just looking at this, like, Perdita looks just about the same in both, so it's like there's not...
Well, and neither of those are how she looks in the final film. She's got white ears, which I think is probably somehow how they compromised, is that they agreed to help differentiate between them. They gave Pongo the black ears, and Perdita has white ears with just like a couple of spots.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, they finally settled on Pongo's design, and I think they made the right choice. Obviously, it would have been nicer to have a bit more visual distinction between the two, but I think they made it... I think they compromised on a good point.
Yeah.
With Bill Peet mostly winning.
Yeah, definitely, because it's definitely closer to his design than it was the other.
Yeah.
Milt's.
So, I want you to think back on Lady and the Tramp and guess who animated Horace and Jasper.
It's just like who... Alright, I'm bad at names, but just looking at Horace and Jasper...
Even if you could say, like, the animator who animated...
Yeah. I'm going to make 2 guesses.
Okay.
Don't tell me until I've guessed both of them. Because they're like different guesses. First, I think it was Mario and Luigi's animator. And I also think it might have been Frank and or Ollie.
Tony and Joe.
Tony and Joe, whatever. And then my other guess, it was Frank and or Ollie Johnson.
Okay, well, it's kind of 3 guesses.
Whatever. Frank and Ollie are always together, and I know they do different things, but it's like one of those two often gets the very... One or both of them often gets like the more cartoony, lovable character. I don't know. So that's my guesses. I think Frank or Ollie.
Well, here, I'll narrow it down for you by saying that Ollie, who animated the 3 Good Fairies in Sleeping Beauty...
Oh, Frank.
Animated the nanny in this film.
Oh, that reads...
That just makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah. So, was I correct about the Italian guys being the same actor?
Yes.
Is that...
So John Lounsbury
Okay.
did Horace and Jasper.
Okay. Like I said, I had 2 different guesses there.
Yeah. And then Frank helped do a lot of the Dalmatians.
Okay, so he just helped with crowd control.
Yeah. Yeah, and Milt was on Roger.
Yep.
And I think he also did quite a bit of Anita.
Okay.
And then we have Mark Davis doing another wonderful villain because he did Maleficent last time.
Now he's doing Cruella?
And now he's doing Cruella de Vil.
Okay, one thing I want to comment on Cruella, now that we're back to her, and just kind of general character design. It's like something that's so readily apparent, but you don't really think about it until you like sit and look at her design. She is stick thin.
Oh, yeah.
She is stick thin, and she she as a character compensates with it so hard by having this coat that is
huge,
50 times larger than she is.
Oh, it's got a way more than she does.
Oh, it definitely does. And like you can see it in how she moves. It's like it's got this giant exaggerated movements she does on purpose to make herself look larger and more important than she actually is.
It is a brilliant character design.
Oh,
and Mark
yes.
Davis went through a lot of different concept drawings before he landed on this one. He originally got the black and white hairstyle from the book. The book's illustrations had Cruella with the black and white on both sides. And he got that from the book, but then from there it just like kept evolving until eventually he had this stick woman with this gigantic coat. He tried some designs where the coat was really small, but like it just gradually kind of got bigger. And then the hairstyle he got from like looking at different hairstyle fashions over the last 40 years or something like that.
Okay.
But yeah, and then like from different actresses he got the idea for like the cheekbones and all that. I love this design. It is so good.
It's like Cruella de Vil is one of those iconic villains that people are like, oh yeah, and Cruella de Vil also exists. And she's neat, I guess. But I don't think she gets her due for just like her character design.
Well, and like her animation.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
She has such a presence.
And this is so different from Maleficent. Like, Mark Davis is rarely talked about as one of the best character animators. He's, like, usually when you talk about Mark Davis, you go, oh man, Mark Davis knew how to nail style. And he did. Like that's always one thing that people always talk about when they talk about Mark Davis. But the variety in his acting, just from Sleeping Beauty to this film,
which are back to back, is so impressive. And he finally,
I shouldn't say finally, but he kind of took Milt's advice about only using the live action footage as
a starting point
for this film, and he said like the live action footage was fine, but the voice actress we got to do Cruella de Vil was so expressive, and there was so much like movement and vitality in the voice that it's just like I had to play it up. Like not doing that would have been a disservice to the voice acting.
Oh yeah.
And I think he's 100% right.
You need to
brilliant.
Go ridiculously over the top with this character.
Yeah, it flows so well. It's such a good character, great acting, great character design, and has like a brilliant climax with just like her going nuts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I love the contrast of this small woman in this giant coat.
Yeah.
And thanks to Mark Davis being so good at design and stuff, he knows how to use that coat and make it like a character of its own on top of Cruella.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's shots in the film, like when she's driving her car where like the coat's flying out behind her. And, it's so good. So good! I love it!
Oh, fantastic.
Speaking of the car, though, that's another interesting thing about this film, is if you go back and watch this film, you might be looking at the vehicles and going, what is going on with them?
They feel
3D.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, this is 1961. Those cars are not 3D models. They sort of are, because they're cardboard models that the studio made, and I'll show pictures of them right now.
So they are 3D models.
Yeah.
But just actual physical object models.
Yes. That the studio made, and then they built sets to move these cars around in. And they had a camera set up, you know, to take the shots like they would be shot in the film.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, they moved this car around, filmed it, and then they had the animators rotoscope it so that the car stayed consistent and they could get some really good shots with this. In particular, the whole chase scene.
Mm-hmm.
Where Cruella like goes off the side of the into the ditch.
Mm-hmm.
And her car is getting like flooded up with snow and she's like pushing through. There's a picture here where you can see like they literally had like this snow put over this car and were filming it and stuff, and it's so cool.
One thing that I want to point out about these cardboard models that I think is just a really awesome touch is they actually drew lines all over it where the lines should be if it was a drawn piece of art.
Yeah.
So it like made it
thick black lines.
So it made it a lot easier for the artists who were rotoscoping the vehicles to get it consistent. I think that's such a neat and such an obvious touch that you could see some people just if they tried to do this themselves wouldn't even think about doing until it was far too late.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, good job, guys. Good job. I love the attention to detail on stuff like that.
Yeah, and I could imagine stuff like this almost became second nature for them to think about, because now at this point in time they have the Disney parks, and so Disney has like its Imagineers and stuff who are always trying to think of like these clever solutions to these problems, and that kind of thing always screams to me Disney Imagineer. And that's just a way that it's like come back into the studio. And Mark Davis, after this film, stops animation and he goes full time into being a Disney Imagineer. And
interesting.
He makes like It's a Small World After All.
Oh, cool.
Right. He does a lot of other stuff. Mark Davis is a pretty prevalent Disney park guy.
Okay.
He helped a lot. He was one of the main supervisors on the Epcot project before Walt died.
Oh.
Yeah. He was a brilliant guy.
But sad.
Yeah. I'll have to do a video on Epcot. one day.
It won't be on Animation Pilgrimage, but just a separate, probably
maybe a
Simi
Speaks or something. Because I love that Epcot plan project. Another thing I want to talk about is the music in this film. Is they thought of the clever way of keeping music in this film by making Roger a musician, or like a struggling artist musician, so that they could have a few songs in here. And like that's a trope that's been done before this film, but it was a good inclusion here.
And it works.
There were several other songs that were written for this film that never got in. You can look them up, but like they're not all that special. IMO.
So it's probably perfectly okay they got cut.
Yeah, like there's songs called like the 101 March and
stuff like
Hup
that.
Hup Toodaloo Tuck Tuck something. I don't know.
All right.
They're not remarkable. But there's only 3 songs in this film.
Cruella de Vil, Dalmatian Plantation,
and then the Canine Crunchies jingle.
Oh yeah, I guess that's technically a song.
Yeah.
Canine Crunchies
Can't be beat. Each meal is a special treat. And then, okay, and I do want to wrap this up because I know we've been talking for a little while.
At least an hour.
Just a little while. We've just been talking about this, for a little bit. But I just want to talk about the fact that in order to do this film, they did more research on drawing dogs. They brought dogs into the studio to do life drawing for. And, they'd already done Lady and the Tramp. But this film looks so different from Lady and the Tramp.
Yeah, it just has a different feel to it.
Oh, yeah, it's very angular. Like, the way that Dalmatians are drawn is way different than how they would have been drawn for Lady and the Tramp.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just trying to think. They would have been a lot fuller, I'm sure.
Yeah, there's this shot of Pongo right at the beginning of the film, and, like, you could just grab a screenshot from that, and it's just so, and Sean's motioning of, like, a stretch.
The dog stretching his toes out.
That scene was animated by... Oh, yes, Milk Call. Milk Call animated
It's like,
that.
I was going to say it was probably Milk Call.
Milk Call animated that because he wanted to try doing, like the scene I blethered about in Lady and the Tramp, where Tramp is stretching and doing his morning routine. Milt wanted to do that again, but see how he could make it different. And it is, and it's brilliant again. I love it. It's so good. It's just good animation, guys. I'm really passionate about this.
I know you are.
Oh, but yeah, that's 101 Dalmatians.
Yeah, I mean, once again, we talked for a really long time about a Disney film, but I think we really extrapolated on a lot of the really interesting and cool things that went on behind the scenes on this one again. I want this to be able to be something that we can do for other films too. I
know, same thing, same here. And there will be a point where we can.
For a lot more films.
It's just, it's so hard to find
any information
on them.
It's like, more often than not, we're getting a short Wikipedia entry about stuff, and that's
all you can find about people talking to it, especially about the international films. I know there's more sources I could find in different languages about these, like the Russian films in particular. But it's just I obviously don't speak Russian and I can't read it either, so...
And even if we were to
translate it, it wouldn't come out...
Correctly.
Yeah.
So, that being said, join us back here next time as we jump into another foreign film, because we're going to the USSR again with a shorter film, Cipollino.
See you guys then.
Canine crunchies can't be beat. They make each meal a special treat. Happy dogs are those who eat nutritious canine. Canine Crunchies. Canine Crunchies all
Ernie, we'd better get these little nippers off to bed if we're going for a WALK.
We want to go too, Mother. Can we, Mother? Can we? We never get to go.
Come along, children. Bedtime.
But we're not a bit sleepy.